I just finished my reserve week here at my base, so I'm headed back home. And it's January, and I was thinking about what's coming next, and I wanted to talk about why I think the reserves is the best way to go if you're trying to figure out if you want to go reserves or active duty. So earlier, or late last year, we had the shutdown, and thankfully it didn't affect military people, but it did affect a lot of government workers. It affected a lot of contractors. It affected a lot of federal jobs, and that brings me to my point that the reason why I think the reserves is the best way to go is because you have flexibility in building your regular job and also having military benefits. A lot of GS workers, a lot of people who are government employees and they're also like in the reserves or whatever, they were not getting paid for those 4 weeks that we did not have was it 4 or 6 weeks that we did not have the pay. But if you're working a regular job, I was still getting paid. If you were active duty, you were getting paid, but you're always running to the risk of what if they don't actually pay you that week, I think it's highly unlikely that they're not going to pay active duty, but you run into that uncertainty of what's going to happen, what's next, how long the shutdown's going to last. If the shutdown happens, then if funding stops, your orders get canceled, your vacation gets canceled. If they have to let go of the GS positions or the contractors, you have to fill in as active duty. You have to be there. You have to be working, minimally staffed, and it sucks. I've been through a couple of shutdowns myself, and it's frustrating. And right now it's January. We're just weeks away for the continuing resolution to stop again. And of course, the government's going to shut down because they haven't even fixed any of the issues. Healthcare still hasn't been addressed. So they're going to wait to the last minute to try to pass a bill, and they're going to just be on a standoff again for a couple of weeks. So here we go again with the shutdown and the people not getting paid or whatever. But if you work a regular job, your regular job doesn't matter if the government shut down or whatever, especially if you work at a hospital. I didn't miss a single day of work during the shutdown. We didn't really care that much about that. That's just my thought. That's why I think the reserves is the best way to go, because you have the best of both worlds. You come, you do your orders, you come and do your stuff. And then after that, you go home and you continue working. So you have two careers. You're building your military retirement and your civilian retirement at the same time. You have benefits on both ends. If one job doesn't cover it, the other one will. In my job, we have free health insurance. So you have health insurance from work and TRICARE, or just TRICARE, whichever you choose. But you also have a different dental plan, a different vision plan that you can pick from. You also have other benefits like my job reimbursed me for certification, so I can get reimbursed through that as well. I don't have to be active duty to be reimbursed for stuff. Another reason why I think that the reserves is the best way to go is because we are not actually seeing patients, especially as a 4H. We're not seeing patients on the reserve side. I don't show up and go work at a clinic or whatever. All I do is train. We do a lot of training, a lot of making sure you're up to date with stuff. You do training missions. I've actually flown and done more training than I have when I was active duty. In the first year that I was in the reserves, I flew more than when I was deployed. So training for your job, I think, is better in the reserves. When you're active duty, they make you in charge of stuff, and you're the whatever POC for whatever program you're running, and then you don't train. You're doing other busy work that doesn't have to do anything with your job. It's just something that the hospital needs because they don't want to hire civilians, or anyone to run it besides airmen. So airmen are the ones doing all the work. That's how they're saving their money. And the airman doesn't get any training because he's busy or she's busy with doing all these things. So when I was active duty, I basically worked at 9 to 5, and I never worked or trained for deployment. When I deployed, I felt very ill prepared for the job. But in the reserves, I've actually had more experience at work and in the military side as well compared to when I was active duty. I mess with the equipment more when I'm in the reserves. I fly in planes. I do training missions to prepare for deployments. And then in my civilian job, I actually get the experience I need. I get the critical experience because none of the hospitals in the military are critical. They're all ghost towns at this point. You go to a hospital and it's basically just retired people trying to get their retired medications because that's what they get to see. They go to the VA, they go to the MPFs, but you don't get traumas, you don't get any kind of crazy medical emergencies. I got more experience in my civilian job than I would ever get in the military. Even if you go to like a trauma rotation for 2 weeks, because you go to a trauma rotation for 2 weeks for training, and you don't know what's going to show up. Sometimes nothing shows up in those 2 weeks, or something does show up, But getting exposed to it one time does not make you prepared. And that's where the military fails in active duty side. They don't train people. They just do busy work. So between the Guard and the reserves, I think the reserves is the way to go as well. Guard, I wouldn't even touch the Guard anymore. The 3 years that I spent in the Guard, or 2 years, whatever it was, we never had funding. Funding was always an issue. I didn't even have equipment to train. So if you're going to go part-time, go to the reserves, because the reserves actually funds training and they fund equipment and things you need. So yeah, those are kind of the thoughts I had this week, being at a drill. And even just this drill, I got to fly 4 hours. We went to do a local mission. We just went up, took our mannequins, took our equipment, and we set it up. We did the whole CCAT thing, and it's training you're not exposed to in the active duty side. My base, we want to get to the point that we can host other people so they can come train with us, because not a lot of bases have the C-17s or the AE squadrons to do the trainings. So I'm very fortunate at this base, and there are other bases that are very fortunate to have all these resources. And even us, we're lacking some things, but compared to the Guard and other bases in the reserves, we're blessed, and we have a lot of experience. Our doctors, they have a lot of experience. Our nurses, they have a lot of experience. And I've enjoyed the reserves the most out of everything, because I can work on my civilian career. I can work on goals that I have on the outside. I don't have to be living in the same city that the base is in. I can move. I can do different things. I just got to show up to drill whenever they tell me to, and do my job and be ready for deployment. But when you're active duty, you have to stay there. Maybe there's some limitations on school. Maybe the school you want to go to is not there, and you don't want to go online, so you have to wait until you get out of active duty or you move. I think the reserves is the best thing that you could do if you want to get a little bit of both. Now, I do have to say, though, if you want to get your training done fastest, active duty is the way to go. So if you wanted to do like 4 years, do your contract and then get out and then go reserves, I think that's kind of like the ideal situation, because you could get your training done without any gaps in funding, because between fiscal years and between different things, like funding runs out and then you have to wait between phase 1 and phase 2 or whatever. But if you're active duty, you just go straight through, you finish your stuff, and then you get to work. You get some experience under your belt doing basic things, and then you do your 4 years, you get out, transfer into the reserves, and then continue working on your personal goals as well as your military goals. If you want to talk about retirement and things like that, then active duty does have the better retirement, because after 20 years, you get your retirement immediately. So it really depends on your goals and what you want to do. But if you want flexibility, if you want the ability to have the civilian career and the military career at the same time, you can't beat the reserves. You still have the health care. Although you have to pay for it. It's 60 something bucks for individuals and like $270 for families. But you have healthcare, you have the GI Bill, you have tuition assistance, you have those things as well. If you have any questions about the reserves, about how it is when it comes to the 4-H life, let me know. I can tell you about other things as well, like other career fields, but I'm a 4-H, so my main experience and my experience in the reserves has been as a 4-H. If you have questions, let me know. Put it in the comments. Send me an email. And we'll catch up on the next one. But I hope this helps out. And I hope it gives you a different perspective if you're trying to make the decision if you want to go active duty or reserves. All right, have a good day.